Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Inattention Podcast. This is your host, Seth Parlow, and I'm back with a friend of mine that I met in high school. His name is Jaiden.
Hi, guys.
He is just a year younger than me, so we're both within like pretty much the exact same age range. We both play saxophone, so we're basically the same person, and I wanted to have him on today just to talk a little bit about whatever from our pasts in high school to stories about between then and now. You know, the pandemic's going to come up, but it's not going to be the prime focus of the episode.
Well, Seth, it's a real pleasure being on here for this episode, so I thank you for inviting me.
Happy to have you on. We've known each other, I think, since I was in my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, I remember meeting you when it was my second semester of my freshman year when I first joined band. You kind of came up to me and introduced yourself.
Oh, yeah. I remember at the time, didn't you have red hair when you first moved over to Cooper?
Yeah, it wasn't the glory days, to say the least. When I had that red hair, people would call me the Human Torch, and I was not quite fond of it, but, you know, whatever. We all make stupid mistakes, and it's just all about that character development, you know?
Yeah. You're like, spoiler alert, not really, for Squid Game. You're like at the end when he dyes his hair completely red.
Yeah.
You're just on top of the world. You're really feeling that power coursing through your veins.
Yeah, basically.
So I remember you played alto, and you still do, and also tenor. I play tenor saxophone. And so when we first started out in band together, that kind of made it so that we automatically had to interact more. And when you first moved to our high school, like, what was it like getting adjusted? Were you able to like find friends relatively quickly, or did it take a while?
Well, I actually moved to the Robbinsdale district during my 8th grade year. Before then, I was in the Coon Rapids district, but moving to the Robbinsdale district, it was kind of strange, I guess, because like Coon Rapids was like more of a well-funded school area, so it took me a while to get adjusted to the
To adjust to the much less budget. that we
yeah,
have.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had friends back then. It kind of took me a while to like find friends in the Robbinsdale district, especially in high school, because like back then I was just a weird little shit. And like looking back at myself now from then, like I would have found myself annoying as well. But like I got there.
Yeah. That's what really matters in the end. So when you say you were a weird little shit, what do you mean?
I was just like, so I had like, okay, so I was like one of those like funny kids, right? Like my whole personality was like based off dank memes, right? And
Yep.
like I would just like constantly reference memes and like be like Rip Harambe, Pepe, you know, and it's just like people found that annoying. I don't blame them, but like other stuff I did, I was just kind of like just I don't know, I just did not interact with other people normally, I guess. I would always just like ask weird things, say weird things, basically just say stuff without thinking and not really regret it afterwards. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember lots of those times. I think there was unfortunately a pretty large culture at our school. Bless you. No worries. There's a pretty large culture at our school of like those kids that were, like you said, on iFunny. I remember iFunny being like the shit back in the day. It was like the Reddit kids, but like even a step lower than that. Like I remember in sophomore year of my high school, I actually got top comment on one of the main featured posts on iFunny. That was like That was, like, the highlight of my week that week. In the end, it means literally nothing, though.
Yeah, just like being like I remember just being featured in like the featured meme section was just like like a big achievement. Like I never did that, but like I remember like I always wanted to. I just all remember like, oh my god, I can't believe these people did that.
Yeah, so did you actually post memes on there?
I did post memes, but all of them were stolen. Like none of them were original at all.
Mhm. Man, I should try re-downloading that app because 'cause I'm pretty sure I posted some really bad memes on there.
Yeah, a lot of them were like really offensive.
Mm. Oh, yeah. There was, like, a big culture, like I mentioned at our school, of, like, the edgy memes, and so that would include stuff like one of the biggest ones at the time, really unfortunate one, was taking, like, SpongeBob. Do you remember this one? They take, like, clips of SpongeBob looking really weird, and they'd add a caption that says, like, "When the autistic kid blank."
I remember that.
Ugh, those were, like, the most prevalent ones.
Dude, that was like prime. Like I just kept I keep remember like when the autistic kid does this or like when the Todd Wrangler does this, but like
Yeah,
obviously now looking back at it, it's like it wasn't right to laugh at, it's obviously like offensive and bad, but like we were edgy teens back then, you know?
yeah. We, unfortunately did not know better yet about a lot of that stuff. I remember there were a lot of kids at our school that would just kind of say slurs, and then that was the joke. It's like, "Haha, guys, look, I'm a white person saying the N-word. Isn't that hilarious?" And it's like, "Ooh, no, not really." There were, like I remember seeing it blow up on social media. There were some kids in a group chat at our school. I think it was after like, the summer after they had graduated as part of my graduating class, where they got exposed for having a group chat where they had said, like, a bunch of sexist shit and said a slur in one of them and some unfortunate stuff like that. That I wasn't surprised, but I was like it was interesting because a lot of those things people don't think it's ever gonna come back to get them. Like, you say something in a Snapchat group chat and you're like, "Oh, this is funny." This had no consequences to it at all, and it's like, little did we know.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at that, like I was kind of surprised hearing like what like the people that were in that group, but like some of the other people that were in that group, like I was not surprised that they said that, just like based off their personality, like from when I knew them. But like looking back at that is it kind of like makes me reflect on like how I should like really like watch what I say, like especially more than now with like cancel culture and all that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. It's like a double-edged thing where on one hand, you genuinely want to, like, be a better person, spread a better message, not spread racist, sexist, transphobic shit, negativity in general online. And there's the other side of it where you have to be extra careful that nothing you say can be misinterpreted in any way. Stuff should be called out. Stuff needs to be, like, said, "No, this is not okay." But, yeah, it does just kinda bring through that whole, like, the classic, like, death threats, threats of, like, sexual violence, stuff like that is so prevalent online, and when you have, like, public shaming, but you take away that factor where you're actually anonymous online, it is scary how, like, far some people are willing to go for no good reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, like, a prominent thing, but, like, what's funny going back to, like, what happened to that group chat is actually, someone actually slashed the tires of one of the people. Have
Oh,
you heard that?
oh, I had no clue.
Yeah, yeah, someone like, from what I heard, I saw on someone's story being like, "Guys, I get it, I messed up, but, like, why do you guys have to, like, slash my tires?" And I
What the
remember
hell?
because it was, like, one of my friends that slid up on that story, so that's how I knew, and, like, the friend that slid up was saying, "Lo like, maybe you shouldn't be such a racist asshole," and something, and he was like, "Be the bigger person," and whatnot, but it was just a whole thing, but I just find it funny that he got his tires slashed.
Oh god. That's that's definitely unfortunate, but, like, it's crazy because that is something where friendships from that, like, ended. Like, it's not kids' games, like, you have to be careful with what you say even in private groups, because if you say it anywhere other than inside your head, it can come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, definitely. I remember like just everyone was like on their ass about it. Like they were like trying to like contact her like college, get them like suspended or even like expelled from the school and stuff. it was just a whole thing, you know?
Yeah. That was I'm really glad because honestly, some of the stuff they were doing, if I had been more popular in high school, I could have been part of that group because I was doing some really stupid shit in high school that I would rightfully, like, be called out for saying shit that's sexist and racist and whatever. And so it's like, I'm really glad that that didn't happen to me, but it's like I feel bad that your car tires got slashed, but you did say some really stupid shit at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Get this out of the fucking shot here. Just like, hey guys, it cuts to the next shot. Just fucking fog. The entire place is just. Yeah. So yeah, next episode, guys, we're gonna be doing a hotboxing episode. We will be filming it, but it will be exclusively gray fog the entire time on screen. I hope you enjoy it. Back in high school, when we met in band, that was when we were with our first year with our newest band director at the time. Now, he was an interesting character for sure. Um, he's one of those guys that he's very opinionated on music, and I kind of admire that in some ways. But in other ways, I'm like, can you please just vibe to this? Like, I tried playing him some like kind of hardcore punk music or like funk music, and he's like, no, I can't stand this. He likes big band music, which isn't even that different. And so I was like, we do jazz music, we do funky jazz music. You like big band music. Where is the disconnect here between this and funk music?
Yeah, definitely. Like he was a character to say the least. Like very, I don't know. I just always kind of found him very strange. But like at times, like he would just like irritate the fuck out of me. And like, cause here's the thing, right? This being in like the arts program at like a not so well funded school, right? He was like a really good teacher, and think that the school like needs him more than he needs the school. Obviously, like he's a really good teacher, but it's just like the things that happen in class. It's just like he obviously like he's the person that obviously like has his favorites and whatnot. And I was like, oh my god, like what can I do to get your approval? Can I please do this? Like he would always I had a friend, another friend, he also played the saxophone. And it just seemed like he always picked that friend over me, no matter what. Like he picked them to be in Jazz One. He sent them to the Wisconsin trip, and that was at the time when I was like really trying hard with taking private lessons and whatnot. And he wanted him to be the section leader. And when I like got interviewed, he asked him to be interviewed. So it just kind of like made me like super mad about that. You know how he had his favorites.
Yeah, because it's like every teacher, it's like a parent. They'll say that they don't have favorites or least favorites, but you know they do. Like, you know there are some students that they just cannot stand. Like, oh my goodness. Do you remember our like geography slash humanities history teacher? So this guy, he was generally like a nice guy. Like, honestly, his enthusiasm to a lot of kids, including myself at the time, was exhausting. Like, when you're in class, the last thing you want to do is get excited about geography. And every day in class, he would like come in with a smile and be like, "Hey kids, you ready to talk about the history of like these ancient artifacts that we found in this one like bygone era civilization that none of these kids care about because all they care about is trying to find out who at the school sells weed, try to figure out how to get laid, and try to figure out how to blow up on probably Vine at the time, I would say. Like the three tenets of what kids in high school would care about at the time. And he was maligned by so many kids. In freshman year, I was also taking like a science class at the time that was kind of giving the basics of physical science. And so I remember learning that PB is the sign for lead. And, you know, as you probably know, ingesting lead, not a good idea. You can get lead poisoning. And I made this joke in my science classroom. I was like, dang, I hope this teacher's PB and J, the PB gets replaced with actual lead. And it's like such a mean joke to say. Like, damn, I hope this dude gets fucking lead poisoning. Like, no chill at all.
Yeah. But the thing about the humanities teacher at our school, every single day I had him in the morning. He would, like how you said, he came in with a smile every day. He always said it's a great day to be a hawk because the hawk is what our school mascot was. And he said it every single day. And honestly, I loved that. I could not get enough of it. And like whenever I would see him in the halls, I would be like, hey, can you say the line? Come on, I really need it, please. And he would do it. And it just got me through my day.
That's great. It's like, say the line, Bart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy, and I think it was my junior year, I was starting to struggle a lot more in school, and I had, like, a history class that was completely separate from the other ones. Like, there was the advanced one, and this was the first time that I had, like, decided to go with the non-advanced route, and so I remember we were in this little classroom that's like right in the corner of like one of the circles around the library. Our library is like literally like a circle, and there's classrooms around it in that area. So it's like just in the back there. It's got such a sleepy vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it. Whenever I would walk in that hallway or into any of those classrooms, I would instantly just get like 20% more tired every day. And this dude, he would come into class with that same attitude. He'd do the same, it's a great day to be a hawk thing every time. And then in that classroom was some of the most disruptions I've ever had in class. Like kids would cuss him out. Kids would have to get sent into the hallway like multiple times a week. Like they would just be super loud and like doing some stupid shit in the back of class, and he'd be trying to teach and they'd be like talking over him and stuff. And that's when I really started like feeling for the guy because I didn't like him that much originally, but that's just because I had this childish like idea of like, oh, this guy sucks. He's trying to teach me about history. What do I look like?
Yeah, how dare he?
Yeah. When you were in your senior year, after you got that info about it being canceled and then there was a long spring break, when you got back to the school, how long was it? Like, I don't know when the mask mandate started, but do you know when they started having kids wear masks in the school?
Funny thing about that, right, is after that day on March 13th, I think it was, that was our last day of in person school. Yeah. So that was the last day, like normal day, but like the last time I was in there after that was just to pick up my instrument and music to practice at home. But other than that, my final time in high school was just like dropping it back off during like the graduation. And it was just so like strange, like seeing, like watching the online graduation ceremony because I was like really excited to walk on stage because I was supposed to be like the first person in my family to like get their high school diploma. And I was just excited to walk. But other than that, really, school during the pandemic, right? It was just really like laid back, I guess. There wasn't really any like online Zoom classes like there was last year. It's because like this was like a new thing for everyone. So I don't know. It was just kind of more laid back. We still had like assignments to do, but I did it. But it was just a really depressing time, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that was a lot of people's experiences, like getting those like maybe 3 or 4 months starting from like March up through July, August, I think. I had already been like depressed like very severely in like the middle of my 1 year that I had at college. And when I dropped out, that, didn't go away, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that's not how depression works. And I feel like the entire world around me at that time just kind of felt like completely muted, like felt completely aimless and pointless in a way.
I think I know what you mean. Like when like during the pandemic when like everyone was like out in public, it just seemed like so spaceless, like nobody was interacting with each other. Like everyone was just doing their own thing, like socially distanced, right? Because everyone was taking it seriously at the time. But obviously there's some people who weren't, which was like just really frustrating to watch and stuff. But yeah, during that summer, right, it was kind of strange. I went to Florida for most of it, and it was just weird. seeing how different it was in the South than it was in like Minnesota. Because like when I was just out going in Florida, right, with my cousins when we were going out, it was just everyone was like seemed like acting normal, like nothing was there.
Yeah.
It was very strange, but, seeing that most people in the South follow, like, a more Republican or, like, conservative, political view, I guess that makes sense, and, like, how people in the North are more, like, Democratic and stuff.
Yeah, in general, for sure. So, after you graduated and you had that summer, when you came back and you were all settled in, did you start college right away or did you hold off?
I did start college right away in the fall of 2020, and, to me, it was kind of exciting but hard at the same time because college online, it's definitely not easy, especially, like, if for any major, I mean, because I'm a music major and I still am right now, and having to do stuff like learn music theory, do ear training, do online band and stuff like that. It was just not it. So, but this was the time when I worked at Target, and during that time, I just did not do good in school in general, like at all. But this year, right, we finally got back to in person learning, and I finally feel like when I go in-person learning, I finally, like, feel, like, a sense of hope, like, I finally, like, feel like I know what I'm doing, and I feel a sense that everything's gonna be okay because I know I'm gonna get out of my situation right now at home and stuff, and, like, not too long ago, a couple weeks, my best friend took me to, Mankato for a frat party, right, and I had the time of my life really like this is what I was missing.
Yeah.
Like what made me sad in general was just like watching everyone else in my class in college doing their own thing, partying, having the time of your life. Like, God, I want that. But like it makes me feel good because I know I'm gonna finally get that soon in like 6 weeks and I'm just counting down the days.
Yeah. I feel like it's just been a year of like the ultimate FOMO for most people. Is just like it feels like you're not going anywhere. Like personally, not being in college, I've been feeling like a large amount of like shame around that about dropping out and like a lot of anxiety around money in the future and stuff like that. And then even though I may look at someone on my like Instagram or Snapchat and it looks like they're living it up, it's hard to remember in general the fact that like a social media persona is the idealized version of a person, and so many people I know are going through it right now, even if they're in a position where I may look at them and say, like, oh man, I wish I was like that. Right now, I feel like I'd have it all figured out. I feel like I'd know what I'm doing. I'd have the sense of purpose and all this. But it's not exactly it's not exactly universal for sure. Some people are really killing it, but I feel like most people are just trying their best and just kind of pretending like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Like, I feel that same shame too, just like being in community college and knowing the fact that I was like such a shitty student back in high school. But honestly, like right now during this semester, I would say personally, I think I'm doing really good with classes and grades and whatnot. And it just makes me super happy. But like you were saying about like the social media persona, right? It just feels like our generation this day is just like trapped and just so worried what everyone like thinks about them, how many likes they get on Instagram, like who might judge them. And it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's easy to be very doom and gloom about the future. I do feel like that's something that will need to be worked on more as we continue evolving as a society, because the internet is so like pervasive nowadays, and people are like, "Oh, it's been around here forever. It's been here since the 90s." And it's like in the grand scheme of things, 3 decades of this evolution of this new technology is so little time. Like I've heard like Hank Green, you might remember him from the Crash Course series that he and John Green did. So he made a point about how like the newest revolution in technology, the thing that changes society the most is overall like communications technology. Because obviously transportation is a huge one, but communication is at the core of human society as a whole. Like speech and being able to organize things is what makes society tick. And when you have a new revolution in communications, it's like we're at the very start of it. We have no clue what's gonna go on, so it feels like we have had it for a long time and that we should know what's going on right now.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's kind of weird just how we're the first generation dealing like with this sort of technology and how like we're dealing with it right now. Because like, if you imagine how like our parents or our grandparents lived, they didn't have to worry about this kind of stuff. Like I guess like they had to worry about the same kind of doom that some people in this generation worry about today because of like the whole Cold War thing, worried about getting nuked.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of an issue here or there.
Yeah, but it's just kind of weird just like dealing with this technology in this day and age and having to worry about so many things, I guess. And that same sense of doom, when I say that, I just think of it that like how like we're all getting older and like how none of us really know what we're doing, or just most of us don't know what we're doing really. Like I'm 19 right now and I'm personally scared of reaching like my 20s, and it's not that like I'm scared of, like, getting older, but it's just, like, having to deal with, like, the adult responsibilities, like, after college and all that, and it
Yeah.
just seems like sometimes it just, like, goes so fast.
Yeah. It's like it kinda mixes in with that, like, whole fear of the unknown because it's like, you know all these ideas that you've gotten through through media and society at large and what other people tell you about, like, what adult life is like, um, what you can expect and how you should go about it. But even all those people that are giving advice or giving their own perspectives are still like us in that they don't really have the secrets that they may portray themselves to have. And I think it's hard to give yourself that kind of slack when you have this kind of peer pressure socially to figure everything out. When, as it's been said before, high school doesn't prepare you for the real world in any sort of way.
Yeah, definitely, and there's actually this, really cool animation on Disney Plus that got released not too long ago. I think it's called 21, something to do with the number 21, but it's basically about this well, spoiler alert, but it's about this pair of sisters, right? They're going to the club and her little sister just turned 21, but like she still fears that same fear of being the unknown. And the whole plot basically is that she got like divided up into like different ages. Like there's like a baby part of herself, there's like a 10-year-old part of herself and a 16 part of herself. And it's just like the whole message of that short film is that like nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's like a child on the inside still, really.
Yeah. Does it kind of represent it in sort of like an inside out sort of way with her older ages, or how does that work in it?
So her older ages, like basically like when she walks in, like she's in like this big trench coat, and like certain parts of her are like causing her to like do these actions because she's just like worried. She's never been to the club, she's never done any of these things, but like when she ends up puking on this one guy and just runs to the bathroom. Her sister comforts her, and like at the end, everything turns out to be okay because like she sees this part in everyone. Like she sees the kid, the baby, the teen, in everyone.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting way of looking at it, like psychologically, because I feel like there's a good balance where you need to keep in mind the past that someone has had while also trying to recognize that you can evolve into something greater than you currently are or have been in the past. But it's like weird because at the same time, you got to accept that you are who you are. Like for me, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. The way that my mind works is never going to be the way that I want it to work. And even if it was that way, like, I would be a completely different person. So it's like trying to grapple with being able to accept myself as who I am while also having hope for being a better person in the future. It feels like difficult. My second year, your first year in marching band, we did an Elvis show.
Yeah, that's right. We did songs like Jailhouse Rock, Blue Suede Shoes. We also did Build Me Up Buttercup for our marching song, which I really liked. Build Me Up Buttercup. I thought it was like a really fun tune. And me and Seth were actually in the same section. I played the alto, he played the tenor, and I remember we would always just like goof off, and like the section leader would always just like get pissed and just purposely separate us.
And our band leader would get so pissed at us because we'd just be goofing off all the time. No one would be like in step for part of it because some people somehow within band don't have the rhythm when walking that someone that is good at music in general, you think, oh yeah, they have rhythm, they can step in time. No, a lot of these kids have no clue how to like walk. Period.
Yeah, definitely not. And I remember actually there was a thing called the Golden Dingle contest. Remember that?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So basically, like, it was just a marching competition, and like the last one to like mess up, I guess, like wins. So we would like do things like walk like 8 yards, 16 yards, stuff like that. And it was basically like an elimination game, right? But the funny thing about that, right? Because I remember my first year being marching band, like I remember being like the last three. But the thing about that is, I cheated.
No.
Yeah, so, like, when we had, like, blindfolds, right, I would, like, purposely, like, slip it a little up, and I would, like, use my
Oh.
peripheral vision to look at the ground and shit, so I would know where I was going.
Wow. You little rat. How could you?
I thought that was funny, I was going for it, I wanted to win no matter
Yeah.
the cost.
Yeah. You'd straight up kill a motherfucker for that.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone ever found out, and, eventually, at, like, the end of, like, that first season at the banquet, I ended up getting, like, the most improved, which I was kinda surprised about, but it was kinda cool.
Yeah. That's really cool. I always feel like that award is funny because it's really nice to win, but I feel like sometimes it can feel a bit like an insult. Like, you know, when you started here, you were complete trash.
Yeah.
I like that's like when a guy I know from high school, when I went to a grad party between like my junior and senior year, it feels like this moment where he walked up to me and he's like, "Oh hey, Seth is here. I used to hate this guy, but now I love him." And it's like, thanks.
Yeah, yeah, I kinda get that, but, it is what it is. It was a fun season overall, and what really made that season fun was, we had the opportunity to go to Memphis and perform in the Auto Show Liberty Bowl that year.
Oh yeah, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, that was it.
Yeah, Auto Shown. And I remember we kept singing, like, the O'Reilly jingle instead of, like, the AutoZone jingle to, like
Damn, it's like I would love it if that happened. Like we were sitting in the stands waiting to get onto the field. Someone in the band just quietly sings O'Reilly, and it's like a Secret Service agent comes up and just like murks them, pulls them
Yeah.
out of the stadium. That was such a weird experience. Like,
Like, performing in the show?
yeah, yeah. Like, cause for people that don't know, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl is a college football like bowl that happens. I think it's like once a year, and it's like pretty large. So they have like these decently large halftime shows. And so that year we were performing on the field with like a ton of other schools from across the country and the Isley Brothers.
Yeah.
It was cool, but it's like when we got onto the actual field, there's like hundreds of kids out there, and it's like I could literally be playing bullshit right now, and no one would know.
Exactly. And I wasn't really too excited to be playing with the Isley brothers. I personally thought that, with their budget being like the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, they could have hired a much better person like within the time, because like don't get me wrong, like they're good musicians, but like they just seemed so outdated, it just seems like such a random thing, like, oh boy, the Isley brothers, can't wait to see
Wow.
them.
Wow, the disrespect coming out of this lad right now. Can't believe it. No, I'll be honest, I felt like the same way. Like when I heard that it was the Isley Brothers, I was like, yeah, I think I've heard of them before. That's basically my entire reaction. And they they performed in the middle of the field. You could hear them, pretty much could not hear any of us at all, I feel like. When I went out onto the field actually, like building up to that, my saxophone reed, the part that you actually have to blow on for it to vibrate and make the noise, started to like chip. And so I tried to do this thing where you kind of like break the end off to make it a bit shorter but still be able to play. The entire thing was so fucked by the end of it that when I went onto the actual field, it like sounded like a dying goose coming out of my saxophone.
What would you say was like the highlight of that trip for you personally?
Hmm. I think like one of my highlights was something you've actually mentioned to me before, was just like the trip down, because regardless of the fact that we basically had like KFC and McDonald's for every meal, which is not always a highlight. Maybe back then it is more because you don't care as much about your body, but the actual like interacting with people on the trip, the like being able to just hang out with your friends and go on this experience and being able to become closer knit with them, even if like, you know, even if after the trip you're not as good of friends, during the trip, just being able to form those relationships was so fun. And it's like it breaks you out of that area where in school you already view people in the exact same way, I feel like all the time. And when you're in a new location, you're like, oh wow, this person is like stands out to me more in a way. Like I'm able to connect with them more because I don't feel like I'm in this formalized setting that's so awkward. And I loved that aspect of it really.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the trip there. One thing that was not as much of a highlight as I wanted to be is that I was actually really sick during that time, like during the whole trip. So like I felt like I was like gonna like throw up the whole time. But like the good part about that, like even though I was sick, I got a lot of attention because they were like, "Oh, Jaden, are you okay? You need anything, bud? You hanging in there?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm hanging in there." But
Mhm.
I don't know. The attention was nice, but again, like you said, just in experiencing that thing with your friends, building better relationships. I just think that's just what it's all about, you know.
Yeah. I actually remember I don't think it was the day of like the parade we did in Memphis. It might have been the day before. I think we were like practicing in that same area or something like that. And we were like sitting in the bus waiting for it to go. Like I think we had lunch earlier, and suddenly we saw like this group of like elementary school to like middle school age kids like out in the middle of the field next to the bus, and they were just like going at it and like fighting with each other, like kind of fist fighting and like wrestling with each other, and it was going down. Like honestly, we on the bus that were watching it started to like root for one kid or root for another kid, and we were like kind of spectating it like a WWE match. And I was like, I don't know if this is bad, but it was entertaining for sure.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember that now that you mention it. Really.
Oh yeah, it was a fight to behold.
Mm.
It was better than the Floyd versus Mayweather match, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it was great. I feel like the least entertaining parts of that trip were the things that, like, the organization of the Liberty Bowl itself set up for us to do. Like, we had, what was it? We had the rodeo,
Hmm.
first of all, and that was an interesting experience because when we got to Memphis, we started seeing a lot more Confederate flags than we'd ever seen before,
Yeah.
and I remember going to the rodeo at the very start of it, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna have a bit of like a prayer blessing thing now, but it's not for a specific religion. It can be for whatever you believe." And then they literally like name dropped Jesus like right out of the gates. First bar name dropped that dude.
Yeah, I did not really enjoy the rodeo that much. It just kind of just reminded me of like the rodeo at the state fair. Like, I can like see this there, like what's so special about this, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, don't get me wrong, it was fun to watch. But like, one tedious thing about it is that like, we didn't have dinner that night. And like, getting food at
Oh
the rodeo was like
yeah.
our only option for food. And like, the line was just god awful. So I
Yeah.
just ended up going to bed without any food. And I was like, fuck it,
Oof.
whatever.
Yeah. I would say you weren't missing out on much. I got like a few hot dogs from there, and you know, the rodeo was like state fair, but the hot dogs were nowhere near a state fair hot dog, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember someone actually offered me their cheese hot dog, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna eat it because I'm hungry, but like cheese on a hot dog, really? Like,
Because it's like not a chili cheese hot dog, just a cheese hot dog?
yeah, just nacho cheese on a hot dog."
Nacho cheese.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't
Oh,
like real cheese; it was like that fake nacho cheese sauce.
what the hell?
Yeah.
Who no wonder they offered it to you. Who in their right mind bought that?
It was one of the color guards.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Color guard is, I feel like, so underappreciated in the marching band because I think they're not taken as seriously. I mean, it's not like the marching band in general is taken seriously
Yeah.
by the rest of the school, but the color guards are like they're doing some cool stuff with those twirling those flags around, and I feel like they aren't integrated into the rest of the marching band as much.
Yeah, for color guard, it's usually just like always like all girls, but like that year there was like one guy. And I think that one guy just like joined because he knew we were going on that Memphis trip and he just like wanted to tag along. So, you know what? Fuck it. Color guard.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty sweet,
I
actually.
mean, to be honest, I would do the same thing, you know?
Yeah. at the rodeo, do you remember that a lot of the like people were uncomfortable because of, animal brutality, so to speak?
Did people in, like, the band mention that they're uncomfortable?
Oh yeah. There was like several girls that I knew of and some guys that were like really uncomfortable watching the rodeo itself. But it's like I get that. I personally wasn't super bothered by it, but I can understand their perspective on that for sure. But what was really disturbing was the rodeo clowns.
Oh, yeah.
Oh god. You remember those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They you know, they're not exactly the top professional stand-up comedians in the country.
Yeah, definitely not. They think that they can just, like, dress up in a clown costume and just automatically be funny, but that's simply not the case.
One of the worst jokes I remember from that is the rodeo clown to an audience full of families and children from the ages of 0 to 18, was like, "Yeah, I was in a this diner recently, and, this woman's kid kept on hollering and hollering and hollering, and so the mom did what she had to and, took the kid and spanked it right there on the table," which I was like, first of all, very strange setup for a joke. I
Hmm.
don't feel like spanking is more normalized in that area, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "So you know what I did, Donnie? What'd you do?" "Well, I started hollering and hollering." I was like, "Oh, no. Why?" This is, like, the worst because it's not, like, a super explicit sex joke,
Yeah.
but it's very strange. Like, I do not wanna get this clown, his ass getting spanked, like, as an image in my head. That's the last thing I want is to see this man naked.
Bro. Now it's in my head, dude.
In your head. That was the most disturbing part of the entire trip, honestly.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice to, like, I feel like we literally could have, like, I would have been more happy if we just stayed at the hotel room that night.
Honestly.
Like, if we could have just, like, chilled, like,
Order some room service.
yeah. My roommates, though, they're, like, kind of mean. Not like low key, just kind of, like, wacky. Like, at the time, like my annoying, like, sophomore phase, like I was mentioning before, like, my roommates, right, what they did, right, is, like, one night they would just, like, just flash their bare ass at me,
Oh, yeah, that
and
brings
they just
back
kept doing it. They were just like, "Hey, Jaden, look at this," and they would just flash their ass. I'm like, "Bro, what the fuck?"
Oh my god. And y'all are all, like, what, 14, 15 at this time?
Yeah, we were all in the same grade, like the people in my room, but yeah, it was like 14, 15. Yeah.
Oh god. That makes you think of, were you ever in any plays or musicals?
The only musical I was in my high school career was the one during my senior year, which was Ragtime. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, when you were in that, the boys' dressing room there, is it still kind of, was the situation at that time still kinda going ham like it did when I was there?
So what they did at the boys' dressing room Ragtime, they did this thing. I have this policy, right, and I stick by it. Buy the tickets, you get the rodeo. Now, what I mean by that is that one of the guys, he was like a pretty, like, he was like one of the main characters. He was like more of a theater guy. That's what his reputation was. But this guy, right, is that what he did is that he pulled down my pants and revealed my dick and balls.
What the
And what I
fuck?
did, I was like, you know what? Is this what you want to see? And I started just doing the helicopter dance, ass naked.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Why?
And that's what everyone did. They just flashed their ass and genitals and be like, haha, funny, haha.
There was so much of it too.
Yeah.
So much. Oh my god. Junior or senior year, I was in the boys' dressing room. I was walking back into it already, and one of my good friends was already in the room, the only one before us. And he's like turned away from the door, and he's like doing the classic bit where he's like, "Hey, I got some bubble gum stuck to my shorts." And he just pulls around and his fucking one of his balls is hanging out. And we're all just walking, we're like, "Oh my god." And then we were all like, wait a second, dude. Your balls are actually huge. What the fuck?
Bro.
And then we started calling him like big ball boy,
I
basically.
I actually did a thing similar to that, but like instead of like calling it, "Hey, look at this bubble gum stuck to me," I would just say, "Hey guys, look, I have a tumor down here. Come look at it."
Oh my god. God, why? There's like so much about that where in high school I feel like a lot of the discourse around high school when you're in it, like what the teachers and other faculty are saying are like they're pretending like you're young adults at this point,
Mhm.
but you're still children.
Yeah.
Like you should not trust us with almost anything in high school.
Yeah.
So you only joined theater in your last year of high school.
Yeah. So I actually was did not like voluntarily do it. Like I didn't audition or anything. Like the only reason like I was just kind of like dragged into it, right? Cuz like the theater director at the time basically what she said is that she needed more white guys to play racist roles because the musical, right, it was ragtime, and for those who don't know, it's basically a political commentary about a African American man who doesn't get justice in like early 1900s America.
Mhm.
And like basically I had like play a racist white guy, and that's what that the theater director wanted me to do. So I was like, okay, as long as I don't have to drop any slurs, which I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one person that did drop a slur.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was actually like really uncomfortable with doing it. Like he really didn't want to, but he understood that he had to like for the show, but he like said that with like a hard R.
Wow. Man, I'm actually kind of impressed how much some of the theater program started being able to get away with because I've mentioned to you before a show you hadn't seen called Society was based on 12 Angry Men, and that had like a lot of like racial commentary and like a lot of swearing and stuff talking about like drugs and sex. And I think our teacher for the theater program started to notice that she was like, "Oh, I guess I can actually include some of this more racy stuff in our productions." And I was like actually kind of impressed that she actually like went for it in that way.
Yeah. I mean, nobody like really got in trouble for it really cuz like everyone like understood it was like all for the show. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting choice that the theater director would like want to incorporate that too but I get where the person's coming from that they wanted to make it like seem more like real, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was a really good show overall. It was a fun performance, good message and all that. Really good show.
Yeah. That's really cool. I wish I could have seen it. But was it one of those things where it's like kind of pivotal to the plot itself that it's like a huge moment of racism or something like that within the show when they say the slur?
Uh yeah, I mean it doesn't like when the person who plays the character who says that word, like when he says it, it's like obviously in like more like important moments, he just like doesn't like spit it out like left and right. Like
Yeah.
there's certain times when he says it to like make it more dramatic.
Oh, okay, I got it, I got it. So he actually had to say it, like, more than once in the show.
Yeah. And there
Wow.
was actually another person who had to say it, just two people, I think.
Yeah, that would've been so uncomfortable. I can't imagine
Yeah.
being in that position. Like, I remember my freshman year, I was in, a one-act play, which is, like, 30-ish minutes, and, we were doing The Giver, if you've ever read that book in school.
I
Uh
have not.
There's one scene that they actually ended up cutting that I think if it was directed by our main theater director, they might have kept in because there's like a scene where my character Jonas is talking about having like essentially a wet dream for the first time.
Mm.
Um and I was kind of nervous, but I was actually kind of excited to be able to do something like that on stage just in my school. It kind of felt like a strange like opportunity where I was like kind of like a conditioning, like there's like rejection conditioning where you go out and get rejected to build up like a resistance to it.
Mhm.
I feel like that's social anxiety conditioning. Like if I can talk about wet dreams in a play on stage, I can do anything basically.
Yeah.
But I remember actually one other person in my grade like came up to me after the show and was like actually crying at it, and I was like, oh my god, I've like never felt that touched from a performance in my life. That was really cool. But I was like, I'm not expecting that at all. I was never expecting that.
Wow, that yeah, that is really cool to just like hear that, have someone like do such a good job where someone like cries on the performance. That seems like such a big honor, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, theater is like great and all, but there's a lot of weird people in theater.
Yeah, theater culture in general can be toxic in a unique way.
Yeah, like there's always like people who like have like a huge ass ego and like basically think that like they're God and they're better than everyone because they always get like the main character every time. But there's just some weird people in general. Like I had this one guy. I wasn't in theater at the time, but I knew that he was in theater. And basically, what he did right, it was like at the end of my sophomore year, and he basically just like hit me up and said, just started casually talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I had this conversation, right? And he starts going on and on about like, hey, I have a crush on you.
Mhm.
I want to see your dick. And I was like, pause.
Oh, c
Yeah.
that's like crossing a line right
Yeah,
there.
like we didn't like we never knew each other that well. Like he just like I feel like the main purpose that he hit me up is he wanted to like see my dick because I don't know if he was like questioning his sexuality at the time or if he like I don't know what it was, but it was quite strange. And what made it more strange, right, is that he kept on consistently like asking throughout
Oh,
time. Like it was like through like all the way up to like my senior year, he kept doing it.
what the fuck? So when exactly did this start happening?
Like spring of my sophomore year, it was like April or May.
Wow, so that was like, what, 2 years?
Yeah, and what happened, right, is I actually ended up going to his house one of these times, right? Because I kind of let go of the fact that he asked, and I thought he wanted to like actually be friends. So I was like, "Hey, I'm auditioning. I want to, join choir. I know that you're really good at singing. Want to teach me how to sing for a bit? Want to hang out?" Because I was trying to be nice. He generally seemed like he wanted to hang out, but when I was, like, there, he was teaching me stuff. I was having a good time, but all of a sudden, I just, like, got this, like, awkward vibe, like, I forgot if it was, like, something he said or done, but I just said, like, "I need to use the bathroom real quick," and then I, like, faked got on the phone and be like, "Oh, hey, mom," and
Oh,
I'd be like,
yeah.
"Oh, I have to go home now? Okay, well, I'll be there in a second. Alright, bye."
Yeah.
And then I just told him I had to leave, and I ended up, like, walking home.
How long of a walk was that?
It was, like, probably an hour because he lived, like, kind of by the school, which was, like, not too far, so it was, like, a mile or 2 walk.
Okay, that's look not too far, but that is strange and inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like saying you have a crush on someone innocently or saying, "Oh, you wanna get to know them better," that's all cool, that's fine. But, like, there's definitely a disconnect there where it's like, I hope that he eventually realized, "Oh, like, that's not okay. You can't, like, sexually harass someone even online. It's still harassment."
Yeah, and he was, like, deemed, like, popular, right? So I was, like, kinda surprised that, like, nobody, like, caught on or he didn't get, like, canceled because of it, but
Yeah.
it's whatever now, the situation's, like, done and over, but I just find it really strange, and that's what kinda, like, made me, like, stay away from theater a bit more because I thought, like, the majority of people were, like, similar to that, but, like, when I had my experience, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, because theater, like, despite having, like you mentioned, like, there are often a lot of big egos in theater, and combine that with, like, everyone there still trying to figure themselves out, like me being, for example, like you mentioned earlier, being in, like, that phase where you're, like, edgy and think that edgy humor, no matter what, is just, like, the funniest shit, and that's what real humor is. Combine all that together with just hormonal ass teens, and it can sometimes be a recipe for, some drama. There's a lot of weird drama there, but
Mhm.
it is worth it because being in, like, a community where you find the people that you do connect with that respect you and you respect them, and you're able to have these awesome experiences with is so worth it.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, people are always gonna have big egos, and people are always gonna be gatekeeping, and we're always gonna be cringing at our past. So,
Yeah.
it's like it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, and, like, the thing that doesn't make it as bad is just, like, knowing that, like, like, literally everyone went through this phase, you know? Like
Yeah. It's like there's some people where it's like when you look back on them in high school, you're like you're one of the rare people that seems to, like, pretty much have a good deal of your shit together and figured out. But for the vast majority of people, no way.
mhm.
No way. And even then, a lot of those people could just be looking that way on the outside when really they're just as confused or lost or whatever. But, like, speaking of music in general, I know we both love music. Like, I originally went to college for music ed, and that's actually what you're going to college now for.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so, like, what made you want to go into music ed?
I'm doing music ed right now, right? Because the origin of my passion for music, resolves around my grandfather, which at the time, I spent a lot of time with during my childhood because, things at home weren't great. A lot of bad things were happening, and he would always like let me stay at his place over the weekend every time. And we'd always go on like such fun adventures. He would like take me tubing. He would like buy me a toy from Target sometimes, take me out to Perkins, just stuff like that. But one thing that was really cool is that he has a record collection, and he showed me a lot of his favorite bands like Leonard Skinner, uh, the REO Speedwagon, old bands like that. And
Mhm.
I just thought they were fascinating to listen to on the vinyl. And just really like the more adventures we went on, like as my grandpa is probably my biggest father figure in my life, and just knowing that I just want to do music because it reminds me of him. But as I found this passion for music, I ended up liking it for myself. So he kind of started that flame for me because at the time he was like the person who made my childhood normal, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like a lot of trauma and bullshit. We don't have to get into that,
Yeah,
but
no worries.
yeah. But I really love my grandpa, and he is the reason why I do music. But later on during my musical journey, when I first joined band, the band director, even though like we had ups and downs, he always seemed like he believed in me, I guess, and I just needed that from someone.
Yeah.
I just wanted that approval that, someone saying, "Hey, you can do this." And as I graduated, I ended up starting to do it. And being in my second year right now, I truly feel like I can call myself a much better musician than I was when I started out in freshman year of high school.
Yeah. That's really satisfying to say. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
No cup. No
No,
no
no
cap.
calf, no kizzy.
No glizzy. Um, I relate to that too because, like, my childhood is obviously different, but, like, for me, I had my dad, he's super, super into music. He has a record collection as well, and despite, like, turbulence between us and despite a disconnection that I felt in our relationship, that was, I think, what really anchored, like, me to him in a way where despite having a lot of emotional issues crop out of my childhood, I think that's what I'm really thankful for my dad introducing me to is all that classic rock and always having music on the radio all the time, like no matter what, every day. And exploring those vinyl, just poking through that collection is such a great feeling. And you pull something out that like you've never heard of that looks really interesting. And I love that feeling of discovery. Like it feels like an ancient relic from the past that you're pulling out. But I relate to our band teacher was kind of a similar figure for me in that way, where I felt like he, in that same way you mentioned, kind of showed me that regardless of like whatever, like there's always going to be some tension within a teacher student relationship, especially with someone like me not getting like any of my shit in on time and showing up late to all these things and not doing my work. Still showed me that he thinks that I had a talent and that he believes that, I could do what I have passion for. I relate to that a lot. And, like, I remember I auditioned for, we had, like, a show once a year that was kind of like a talent night sort of thing.
The variety show?
Yeah, the variety show, exactly. And I one year I had auditioned, I think it was my junior year maybe, I auditioned with, an acoustic guitar song that I had written, and, I was pretty unpolished back then. Like, I'm still not a good guitar player, but afterwards, like, once the results had came out, he told me, he's like, "Hey, man, like, listen, you didn't get into the show, but, I think you have a lot of promise, and I think that if you keep working on that, that you can make some really good stuff." And that felt really good because it's like, I think without that, that would have been could have possibly been a more crushing moment of being like, "Oh, man, I didn't get in. I'm no good, blah, blah, blah." And so I think he was just despite, other things, I think that was something I admired about him, and part of why I wanted to go into music ed is to be like a figure like that for other kids that are struggling in general with their lives and with their passion as well.
Yeah, because being a teacher to me it means being someone that your students can not only like just learn from, but like can also look up to and trust, like myself as a teacher, when I finally get that job, hopefully if I ever do, which is my like dream, but if I do ever get that position, I want my students to know that, whatever is happening in their lives, that they can tell me and I would help them in any way I can, Because I feel like the world needs more teachers like that. Because I feel like too many teachers are just like so focused on like making like their paycheck and just not caring enough about the students.
Yeah. And it's like it's difficult because with teachers, you can tell there are some teachers that looking back, I think are pretty like negative experiences for people in their classrooms overall. Like, but those teachers that do stand out, it makes such a difference. Like, those are like parental figures in the lives of so many kids. Like, a lot of teachers like have students that they have that connection with where they almost kind of act as a therapist to some kids in a way, because a lot of these kids have bad home lives, and a lot of these kids, like, can't afford help that they need, and so I think it's really admirable to want to become, like, that figure in a kid's life.
Yeah, I remember, our band director one time I told him part of like a situation I was going through, and it was like, Jaden, I hope everything turns out okay, but like one thing you should know that trauma is what really creates good music that stands out, which I thought was kind of like weird
Yeah.
at the time, but like
Yeah.
right now I kind of get it, like that trauma does make good music, and even though like it sucks to get that trauma, you can make something good rather than turning your life negative over it.
Yeah, because I think that ties into, like, being human overall, that these difficulties when you don't face any difficulty, you're less likely to be able to become, I think, like, a great person. I think someone that is, like, a truly great person has been through these times where because of their experiences, when they can grow from them, when they are able to adapt as a person and also empathize with other people in that way, that's what really is the advantage of, like, struggle in general. It's actually funny because I just remembered recently that, that same band director, I think it was my sophomore year of high school, he actually, I think, went to me and my mom at the time and said like, "Oh, hey, like Seth, I feel like he's acting different in class. I feel like he seems like he's not being his usual self and that he might be going through something." And that's actually what got me to go to a counselor like for my first time was because of that same teacher. And unfortunately, I feel like depression counseling is very focused on depression, and with, an ADHD kinda mind, I feel like depression is usually more a symptom of the struggles of ADHD, but getting onto that path to eventually figure out better about, okay, what is going on in my mind, becoming more introspective, and then eventually learning, like, what my larger, truer struggles really are. I think that's super important. That helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it's just really crazy, like what one, teacher figure, how like that one person can impact your life that much, and I'm honestly grateful for it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the reason why I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah. And well, speaking of music, I know both of us have a huge appetite for music in general.
Oh, yes.
So I'm kind of curious throughout your life, can you remember like what sort of phases you had like growing up versus like now? What are like suppose major artists or genres that you love that stick with you?
Yeah, so I whenever I would like hang out with my dad, like when I was like little, right? He'd always like turn on like the radio, I guess. I mean, he didn't really have like a specific music taste, but that just kind of led me liking like a lot of like rap and hip hop. And that's what I'm like mainly focused on listening to throughout like my teenage years is rap and hip hop. And like I liked artists such as like Lil Wayne, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Drake,
Mhm.
a lot of the basic rappers, I guess. But it wasn't until I actually graduated high school and when I got deeper into like my music taste and discovering what I truly like, you know, my one of my good friends who I hang out with a lot, he showed me the Grateful Dead, which I listen to a lot, such as a lot of other psychedelic rock bands like
Mhm.
the 13th Floor Elevators. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Oh no, I got to look into them. That's a really intriguing name.
Yeah, 13th Floor Elevators. They're like the OG psychedelic rock, but they're a really good band. And just other bands really like Sublime and just like bands in general, not like just one hip hop artist. But as I like dive deeper into like what I like, I figured out I like those goofy psychedelic sounds that where you just think like, how the fuck does this sound come out of this instrument?
Oh yeah.
Like Jimi Hendrix and all that, but I still like stick to my like roots of liking rap and hip hop. But it's different like artists such as like ASAP Rocky, Kid Cudi. I still listen to Kanye, and sometimes I like to listen to like a lot of indie bands
Mhm.
like Mac DeMarco, Tame Impala. Sometimes I listen to a little bit of Claro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Some of that bedroom pop spice in there.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I love some of Mac DeMarco's stuff because I remember when I was really young, I had a Beatles phase. I think that was in elementary school, and a Michael Jackson's.
Hmm.
You know the favorite
The
band, the Mike.
Jackson Five, you mean?
No, just
Oh,
the band, Michael Jackson's.
yeah.
um, yeah, I had a phase of him for a while, and then I remember in around middle school, I got really into Dead Mouse and Daft Punk.
Hmm.
And I got more introduced to some of the beauty of like production focused music, which I really love, house music and techno music and electronica. And I had a phase where like I basically only listened to that kind of music for a long time. But then artists like I feel like Gorillas is a big one for a lot of people where that helps them like branch out
Yeah.
because of how eclectic their sounds are.
Yeah, it makes like they when they say that they're a Gorillaz fan, it just makes them seem so like different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm special. I like gorillas.
yeah. I like not to brag or anything, but I like
Yeah.
Gorillaz.
Yeah. I'm just kinda cool like
Yeah,
that.
but I forgot to mention this, right? But another type of music or artist that I've really been enjoying lately is Olivia Rodrigo.
Mhm.
Her Sour album, I personally think deserves album of the year because I really like her songs like with her like deep lyrics. Not like just like the like driver's license or anything like that. Like there's this one song, Hope You're Okay, which I didn't really know the meaning of, but like learning what it meant was like that she knew a friend who had like abusive parents and like
Mm.
she hopes that he or she ended out okay and turned her bad situation to a real flush. But it's just those like deep lyrics that really inspire me of music that I want to create. Like when you listen to sad music like Juice WRLD or X Ray, they rap about like all girls are the same, I have depression, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But like when I like make a song, if I want to make a sad song, I like want to make it like subtle, Like when I say something, I want my listeners to be like, what does he mean by that?
Yeah.
you know, like just those subtle motifs that you really gotta like listen for and stuff like that.
Yeah. I love a good, I love a good song that makes you kinda have to give it a bit of a literary analysis on it.
Yeah.
That's part of why I love Sufjan Stevens so much, especially, like, with his, has, like, a lot of metaphorical language, and he has, like, a lot of, allusions to, mythology, especially things like Greek mythology comes up, but a bunch of different, like, folklore and things like that. Not the Taylor Swift album, although I do have to look into that because 'cause I've heard it's really good
Hmm.
despite some hiccups in Taylor's, musical career.
I think it's really funny the whole Kanye and Taylor controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like remember like the yeah, when she interrupted him at the MTV Music Awards and like said blah blah blah, she has the best music video of all
Oh,
time.
yeah. Yeah, Kanye said, like, "Oh, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but, oh, yeah, Imma let you
It was
finish."
Beyonce, yeah.
Yeah, but Beyoncé had one of the best music videos of all time.
Did you know that that was actually the inspiration for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies?
Oh, yeah, I was actually watching a really good documentary by a guy on YouTube. I'll put up the video here. It's called, like, FD Signifiers, I think the name of the channel, but he had a great video too that talked about, like, the history of Kanye West and, like, his evolution, and, like, it analyzed him by looking at him as, like, a WWE, character. It's really interesting because you can sympathize with a lot of his life and the struggles that he went through, and you can kind of understand it better, like, when you take into account his, like, mental health and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but then it's like at the same time, he's done a lot of damage in ways where it's, like, such a complex, like, he's like an anti-hero to a lot of people.
Yeah, but you know, there will always be like the Taylor Swift stands will be like, "Oh my god, Kanye's such a piece of shit," you know. But
Yeah.
when you truly like understand the context of like what he's done in the past and like listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies, to me it just seems like the ultimate redemption, you
Yeah.
know. Because everyone hated him back then. Even like Obama said that he was a jackass
Yeah,
in an
yeah, yeah.
interview, you know. But like when he released that album, it just won everyone over, you know. Everyone just forgot what he did.
Last thing I wanna talk to you about today is what your 2021 has looked like, because I know 2020 was, like, a huge meme and everyone was like, "Oh god, it's the worst year ever. I'm so glad it's over." But I feel like my personal year for 2021 has been really interesting and strange and a lot more dynamic than 2020. And I was wondering what your experience this year has been like.
Yeah, sure. So like back in January, right? It was kind of like similar to 2020 just cuz like we were like still in quarantine and stuff, but like everything really changed for me is like when the vaccine came out. And at the time, I was going to the gym regularly with a few of my friends, and we were at Hy-Vee, right? And we had no intentions of getting it because we didn't know we could at the time. But this nurse comes up to us and like, "Hey, we have two vaccines left. Do you guys want them?" Yeah,
What?
and we're like, "Hell yeah, we do." So we took the vaccines and we got like the second dose like 3 weeks later, or however long you're supposed to wait to take the next one.
Yeah.
But everything just started really looking up when the vaccines released. I actually got to go back to our old high school to do a teacher observation for our band director.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting, you know, because they went back to in person learning. And I was just like watching them in the class, both like the concert and symphonic band. And it was just like cool getting to see him again. And we just had like a conversation about like how college was going for me and whatnot. But, you know, after that, I finished the rest of my freshman year of college at Anoka Ramsey, and then summer came, right?
Yeah.
Summer was amazing to be in my like from my experience. You know, I got to spend a lot of time with my friends and stuff. Oh, before I get to summer real quick, one thing I did forget to mention
Yeah.
in February, right? My best friend took me down to Mankato, the same one that took me down a couple weeks ago. When we were down there, right, we are like having fun, and this girl like trying to like hit on me. I was drunk at the time, so I didn't really have standards, and we didn't do anything. We were just like cuddling, right?
Yeah.
And like the next day, it was kind of like awkward because I felt obligated that I had to do something, but I just eventually ended up like just telling her like, hey, you know, I don't want to lead you on or anything. I'm not interested. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it was my friend just kept giving me shit about it, but like in a funny
Yeah.
way, you know.
Yeah.
But you know that happened. But summer, right? I went on a lot of adventures. I went to Dallas, Texas for like a week with a bunch of my friends. And other than that, really, it's just been a lot of traveling, a lot of just enjoying summer, doing summer activities, going to well, not music festivals. During like the end of summer, I went to it was like a small band concert. Would you happen to know who Creeping Charlies are?
Sounds really familiar, but I don't think I do.
Yeah, so I saw them live. It was just like a bunch of like indie kids just like hanging out. Yeah, but summer was nice, and so far during this academic year of my second year of Anoka Ramsey, it makes me feel really good to be in person, like I mentioned before, because, like I said, I have this hope, this beacon that I know I'm going to make it to where I want to be in Mankato in about a couple months. And just thinking about it just really makes me excited and want to work more hard to make sure that I achieve that because I genuinely cannot wait to get out of my house, my bad situation, go to college with my best friend. Not a lot of people can say they are going to college if they're like longtime best friend they knew since they were 12. And I'm lucky that I can.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to join or not join, rush for a fraternity and hopefully join, Phi Delta Theta because my friend I mentioned is in a sorority. She's in Alpha Sigma Alpha and she wants me to join that chapter at Mankato. But I'm just genuinely so excited for the future to come and all the opportunities I shall face in Mankato and just really just escaping my house. That's just the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
And as 2021 is coming to a close in December, I will be in Mankato. I will end 2021 with glory and prosperity for myself. And it seems like the best feeling ever.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Really happy for you, buddy.
Thank you.
Oh god. For our audio listeners, we had a very strained handshake right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely relate to that feeling of like getting ready to get out of the house because I just moved into this apartment in July. But then after my car got totaled in mid-July, I had to basically spend the next over a month just on my mom's couch for like a long time, and that was like, back into the situation again. I was like, oh goodness, like I know why I want to get out of here again. It's actually funny because at the start of the year, I wouldn't say I was doing amazing. I was working at a pizza job in January, um, and this is at a time where I was still recovering from my previous breakup that had happened in the middle of 2020, and of course, from social isolation. Like I was basically not seeing anyone for the longest time for like basically all of 2020. I didn't hang out with anyone, and I only saw people at work. So it was like kind of a strained time for me. And I did enjoy my pizza delivery job in general. I did enjoy my coworkers a lot, and they helped me like essentially through that time. But um, at a certain point, I was like, I really can't be delivering anymore. Like they keep, the main managers keep scheduling me like closing shifts, even though before I had explicitly said like I don't want to do closing shifts anymore because it messes up my sleep schedule, yada yada. So I left. Then I went got a different job, and the actual job was different than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like yard work, as in like landscaping type stuff, and it actually ended up being. I was so dumb that I hadn't realized this earlier. A job at like a car junkyard, and my position when I went there on that first day, it was like with a temp position, was to go out into the yard with another dude there, and I would do is basically remove the license plates off of cars, clean out all the trash, which is there's a lot of puking and pissing that goes on when people get in car crashes, as well as a lot of trash that people keep in their cars for a long time. There was a vase with something at the bottom, and I looked at the bottom with my eye right up to it, and it was a dead mouse. I was like, "Oh, gross!" And I threw that away. And after that day, I was like, "Nope." Literally next morning, I woke up. I called him. I was like, "Sorry, I can't do this job. This is not for me." Got a different job as the DSP that I mentioned earlier. That wasn't the right position for me, but with with the vaccine coming out soon, I was getting more hopeful, but I was like, I'm really starting to not be able to stand living at my mom's house right now. Like, I was going crazy. And I would only just work out outside of work. I was getting, like, way too into work and, like, focusing on my diet to, like, an unhealthy degree, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And then after that, I eventually got my job at my current position at, a place where I clean windows and gutters, and then that all happened with my apartment situation. I actually moved into a place in the first or second week of June that was renting out a room in a house, and then I talked to the other roommates there, and they mentioned that the guy that owns the house that lives there as well had said, like, sexual stuff about me while I was moving in.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I moved out immediately after I had finally moved in, found a different place at this apartment, moved in here, all that happened with my car, and now I'm here, and I feel like I'm starting to finally settle down a bit. I'm gonna be getting a different job that's not so stressing on my muscles as well as my sleep schedule, and I feel like I'm starting to get into a mode where I can focus more on my future, and it's like, um I think kind of in line with what you mentioned with going to college, it's like along with there being like a beacon where despite all this confusion, I'm starting to feel like I have a focus. Like this podcast is something that's been a focus for me as well as reading again. But like going back to college is also something I want to do soon. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I think, just look for big stuff from us coming up.
definitely.
Not too soon. Give us some time, Give us at least a couple days
Yeah,
or years.
possibly an album soon.
I've been hoping. I've been hoping.
Yeah.
But anyways, well, we'll be signing off here. It was a great pleasure to have my friend Jaiden on here.
Thanks again for having me on here tonight.
Oh yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for coming in.
Of course.
Thank you, the listener, for listening or watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye bye.